So let's talk about what the red pill actually means. And I did a video on this last year that a lot of people liked. Maybe I might put the link in the description when we go off the air. But I talked about what the red pill actually is. It's not, oh, female nature. No, it's about understanding the actual nature of all of the mechanisms that you interact with every day. You can become red pilled when you find out that your boss doesn't give a shit about you. Now you're red pilled, right? Mm. And I think, Cap, we talked about this about a certain employer that you've worked for, where it kind of let you know that this whole thing about if you work really hard and you show up to work every day, that you're going to win and they're going to treat you with respect and they're going to respect,
trying to
right?
Be a crock of shit, yeah.
Right. You've been red pilled. Right. So I think that the terminology is just kind of meant, okay, in these dating situations, things are like this. Shout out to Dead Man Slasher. Right. And so we're here to just try to figure out what the actual nature is. So when you have a guy, or you have the frauds in Florida, we don't call them by their actual name here, Jay. There are the frauds in Florida, right? But again, your point is 1,000,000% correct. Your overall point is 1,000,000% correct. When you buy into these narratives from these guys, and when I was a kid, I was told that the most effective lies are those with the truth mixed in.
Absolutely.
So when you look at the way that the frauds in Florida and this Tate guy, I always forget the guy's first name, this Tate guy, when you look at the fact that they will take some truth, they will blow it up, use hyperbole, apply it across the board when they really only apply to a subsection of modern women, then you are now creating a different matrix. You are now creating a different blue pill. Now, it's not the blue pill where you're giving women credit and adoration that they have not earned. It's a different type of blue pill. Right. Where you're going too far in the opposite direction. But again, if you want to go down the rabbit hole and find out what reality actually is, taking the red pill means looking at things for what they are. Yep. The frauds in Florida and the Tate guy are just creating another blue pill, just of another flavor that moves you in the opposite direction.
So let's talk about the frauds, right? I mean, let's just be very honest here. And Jay brings up a great point. We've talked about this on this channel. They bring on the lowest denominator of women on there that aren't like there for an actual debate. They pick them off the street, some random drunk girls, some girls that go into clubs. Is that the most intellectual person you're going to have a conversation with? No. So it's pretty easy to dunk on those women, right? Mm-hmm. Let's just call that what it is. That's just kind of grandstanding and trying to make yourself look bigger than you are. But I mean, when you're intellectually weak, like the frauds in Florida, I mean, I understand why they do it. And quite frankly, if they didn't have those pretty women on their show, right, the thoughts, I mean, let's just call it what it is. They'd have no fan base, right? Because like when they actually had shows that were talking about economic investments and stuff like that,
they got very little views,
nowhere near the numbers, right?
So and it's sad. I just want to interject. It's sad, and this is not. I want to give the frauds in Florida all the credit in the world because they brought on attorneys, they brought on economic professionals to try to help push men in a good direction, and they would get maybe 1,000 people in the stream, maybe.
Yeah.
But so, then you bring on these other chicks, 10,000 live.
I mean, but when you get, I mean, we're in a society where we have young men pay OnlyFans to see like feet pics and naked pics of women. So I mean, we're living in an era, a very different era. As for Andrew Tate, I have never been a fan of him. I mean, if you look into what he does, like that Hustlers University, that's just a big scam.
Yeah, it's a massive scam.
He makes you try to sign up. Oh, you'll be in. You see these Bugattis and these Lamborghinis that I have that are most likely leased.
No, they're not leased. They're actually his.
Oh, they actually is?
Yeah.
But like, they sign up this Hustle University. You've had CoffeeZilla do exposés on that Hustlers University, and it kind of turns out like, oh, like maybe you could make an additional like few $100s to $1,000 a month. It's like a part-time thing, right? So like he gets you to sign up with the idea that you become this next millionaire, whereas you end up just becoming an Amazon fucking referral.
You know what it reminds me of, Cap?
It's a joke.
It's the joke where the guy sells a book online, How to Become a Millionaire, and then charges $1 million for the book.
Well, I mean, it's like that. It's like that. Like a friend of ours of like making a book of how to be a man when you haven't gone through manhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like you don't have any life experience. How the fuck are you gonna tell anyone else to be a man when your nuts haven't dropped yet? So, I mean, and that's no disrespect, but you haven't gone through trials and
That
tribulations.
sounds
You haven't gone through the ups and downs.
sounds like a lot of disrespect to me, Cap.
I mean, but like I'm just keeping this is what we do on the show. We keep it all the way real, even with our friends.
Yeah.
But I mean, when it kind of comes down to it, like the reason why we want to have this conversation is I kind of was in a situation where a young man was going out of his way to be over the top with a woman in the league that I'm running, and it was just kind of weird because it's like the one problem I have with these Tate fanboys, and like you said, everyone has these stands, quote unquote, that will defend them regardless. Like if Andrew Tate, like Jay said, is found guilty and it's like unverifiably true, they'll have fans, oh, he was framed. Like you could literally have a video of Andrew Tate pistol whipping somebody and forcing them to have acts with him, and fans would still defend that motherfucker saying it's staged or it's a deep fake, right? I mean, that's just fans. They're called fanatics for a reason. They don't really have much reasoning in their defense of their celebrity. And is that sad in a way? Absolutely, because we get rid of having rational thought and just you get rid of their rational thought and they just blindly follow that guy like he's the next messiah. It's weird.
Well, I think we need to look at the mechanism that makes that possible.
Mm-hmm.
You think about there's an attorney on YouTube. His name is Dennis Sperling. And Dennis Sperling is known for being a spokesperson for Kevin Samuels after he passed away. Mm-hmm. Now, he found his wife through Kevin Samuels. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people said, well, Kevin Samuels is a this, that, and the third. But he was actually putting together black women with high-powered black men with high net worth, putting women together with high net worth individuals. Mm-hmm. And so Dennis Sperling has kind of taken up the mantle, but in a much less kind way than Kevin Samuels, much less kind. And what he's doing is he's telling guys, save yourself, protect yourself. And where does that come from? Well, when somebody actually goes to say something to you to help you and you shit on him and then you dance on his grave, they literally danced on Kevin Samuels' figurative grave.
Yeah.
What you're telling the men is you don't care what we think. You don't care about us. So now you start to see guys go toward the dark side where they're like, you know what? Fuck you. We're not going to try to help you become more feminine. We're not going to help you become more valuable to the men that you want to be with. We're just going to tell the valuable men to just stay away from you. Mm-hmm. And you get there from people kind of ignoring the reasonable position. So when men were saying reasonable things, men were being canceled for saying reasonable things. Men were being denigrated for saying, you know what? I'm in shape. I would like a woman to be in shape too. Or when I come home, I would like peace when I come home. Simple things like that would get people canceled. Well, guess what that does? When you ignore people's reasonable requests and you treat people like shit unreasonably, then the response is then going to be unreasonable. So you get a Tate because of all of the reasonable guys that you tried to destroy and you talk shit about and you made fun of and used the sign language, shame, insults, guilt, the need to be right. When you did that to the reasonable people, you're actually giving birth to even less reasonable people.
I mean, that is fair to a point, but I think I understand that people feel like there's got to be a counterbalance, right? Like due to I feel like the overarching problem with society I see it's like a lot of men shaming. Like men just can't be men, right? Like even if you look at a woman a certain way,
If you
you're
exist,
you're
it's a problem.
you're demonized,
Yeah.
right? Like flirting and like I'm not saying being a predator and being a creep, but just like giving somebody a compliment these days can be
Yeah.
considered sexual harassment. Like we have gone to a point of no fucking return.
Did
So
you
I
see
understand
that?
why.
Did you see that the hashtag on Twitter "kill all men" started trending?
No, I didn't. I don't really. I'm not on the cesspool
Yeah.
Twitter
No,
much.
nobody's getting banned for that, by the way.
No,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
I mean when it kind of comes down to it, you have these women like that. Let's talk about that type of trend that have downright dangerous type rhetorics, and they kind of belittle the struggle men go through. I mean, men are the ones that really face the most mental anguish in today's current society because they're constantly looked down upon for just being men, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Not to say that
and
women don't have issues. Women have
no, I
issues. They're
mean
just
no,
different.
they're just different. But also, let's be very fair here. Men are just used as a punching bag because it's okay,
And we
right?
also have a higher burden of performance and decorum
Yeah,
in
I
our
mean,
society as well too.
and let's be fair, right? So if an ugly man approaches a woman, right, and
Harassment.
it's harassment, but if an ugly woman approaches a man, it's courage and brave.
Oh, and if
And
he doesn't like that, he's
it,
shallow.
yeah, he's shallow. Whereas everyone's fine. Like women are fine to have their preferences in the mainstream, but men aren't, and it's just kind of wild. It's just definitely a wild situation that we've gotten into, where people aren't even allowed to have their own, preferences. I mean, and then like let's just call it what it is. I understand why young men turn to someone like Tate because they are feeling downtrodden. Now, do I
Hmm.
believe that's the smart thing to do? No, because I don't think Andrew Tate gives you anything substantial or anything to really think upon deeply. Like all Andrew Tate does, right, is he quotes someone else or he has a very basic thought and he says it in a way that it's so like groundbreaking. You know what I
Like
mean?
it's
Like it's
catchy.
like this, like it's this
It's like pop
absolute
music.
it's like this absolute like revelation that he just came up with. Like there's nothing I've seen from Andrew Tate that I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing. I'm like, it's like, dude, some of this is common sense, some of this is kind of wild, but um, I'll say this: he's a very good marketer. He knows how to
Yeah.
market his material. He knows how to present himself. He knows the persona that he has to carry himself by to kind of get these followers. Um, and he has different energies in some aspect in different rooms. Like when he's with Pearly Things on that podcast, I saw him be um, a little bit more toned down. But then when he's in a more male dominated space, he's a little bit more amped up. He's very calculated with how he behaves, and it's smart. I'll
Hmm.
give him that. He's very business savvy in that sense.
Hmm.
So